Hello and welcome to this video. If you're new here, my name is Marta and I'm so excited because today I will be testing out my Moonspell palette because I just did a dupe video that I'm filming the same day today, and I just put together all of these different singles to dupe the Moonspell palette. If you're wondering why there's an empty space here, it's because I duped that one shadow with the bottom middle shade here from the Colored Raid Safari Rain palette. Anyway, I just did this dupe video and I was really excited to see how these shadows would compare to each other on the actual eye, because sometimes when you swatch them or if you just look at them in the pan, they might look similar, but what's really important is if they're going to look the same on the eye, because some shades do look actually quite similar on the eye, even though they might be a little bit different when you swatch them or when you just look at them in the pan. So I actually did one eye with the Moonspell palette and one eye with the dupe palette, so please comment down below right now. Just stop the video and comment which side you think is which, because one of them I only used my single shadows and one I used the Moonspell palette. So I will just give you a quick look at how these eyes look. So this is obviously my right eye and this is my left eye. So which do you think I used for my left eye? And which did you think that I used for my right eye? I'm so excited to see if you can guess the right one. I don't want to make this video any longer than necessary. It's probably going to be a long one, so please go and get yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and I will just go straight into how I did both of these eyes and which shades I used. Okay, so I hope that you have already guessed which side is which. So I will be going in with the Moonspell palette on my right eye, so it's this eye, and then for my left eye I will go in with my dupe palette. So I will first start out with the Lunar Beauty Moonspell palette, and I think I will do a green look today. So I'm going to use these shades down here. And first I'm just going in with my Kaleidos Makeup S2 brush here, and I'm going in with the shade here called Nancy, and it's got quite a bit of kick up. I don't really mind that, just tapping the brush a little bit. And obviously I will have to tap out my base here. Right now it's the Juvia's Place concealer that I have here, so I'm just going to tap this here. Okay, so I'm happy with how the shade Nancy was placed. I'm just using my color switch right here to clean off the brush so I don't have any excess powder from the Lunar Beauty Moonspell palette, so I will mix the powders. So now that this one is clean, I'll be going in with my duping shade, which is the shade Jaded from Devinah. And I know that these also have quite a bit of kick up. So I'll hold it like this. As you can see, there is kick up here as well. And I'm just going to apply it the exact same way on my other eye, obviously tapping out the base first. So here we have the dupe on this side and the actual shade Nancy on this side, and they are very similar on the eye. I don't really see much of a difference. I mean, I think this one is maybe a little bit darker, and this maybe just like a little bit brighter, but they're very similar and I don't think anyone is going to see a big difference, honestly. So now I'm just going to use my Kaleidos Makeup brush S3, and I will be going in with the shade Marnie, which is the deeper green shade right here. Like that. A little bit kick up, but not that much. And again, making sure that the base is not creasing. And then I'm just tapping it in here. And I do sort of regret not putting this one in the outer corner because I think this one is a little bit darker. And I usually like to have the darkest shade in my outer corner, but it's too late now. It's probably gonna end up really pretty anyway. I'll just be taking the shade Marnie a little bit here into the crease. Just blending it slightly into the shade Nancy. I'm also just making sure that the shade is quite pigmented and dark a little bit higher up, because when I'm doing my cut crease, you will barely see it if I don't drag it high enough up. So just like that. And then I'm of course cleaning my brush again. Now going into the shade Dirty Martini here by Makeup Geek. I know from when I used this the last time, it's quite a long time ago, I just didn't really like how it blended. So I'm excited to see how it looks now. So I'm just going back into the shade Jaded a little bit to correct a little bit here, because I just felt like it's not as far down as this. I mean, as you can see, the shade Dirty Martini is way darker than the shade Marnie. I think that's what I remember from using it, that it doesn't really look the same way on the eye that it looks in the pan. Now I'm just taking a little bit more of the shade Nancy for my outer corner here. As you can see, it has sort of, I don't know what happened here, but I will just try to apply a little bit more because it looks like it's almost separating or something. I just have a feeling that this side is going to look a lot brighter maybe than the other side. Okay, like that. Now cleaning my brush again, and I will just try to use the shade Jaded a little bit more on top here, just because it has some green in it and it might just bring out a little bit more of the green in the shade Dirty Martini. Plus I want to blend it out a little bit. So I just cleaned my brush and I don't really have anything on it right now. Just slightly blending the edges with a clean brush. And I will just take a random blending brush here with some setting powder and just make sure that the area underneath my brow is set. And this is how it's looking a little bit closer. As you can see, I'm not super happy with the blending of the shade Dirty Martini by Makeup Geek, but that was sort of expected. So, I don't know, I'll just go in a little bit. I just cleaned this brush and just try to blend the edges a little bit extra. I feel like this is truly a lot more dirty than the other shade, so just blending it. I'm really not touching it a lot, I'm just slightly touching the brush, holding it on the outside here so it's way more flimsy. Just added a tiny bit more of the shade Marnie. I'm just dragging it out a little bit here. When I say dragging, I'm still very, very gentle with my brush. I'm basically just trying to deepen it up a little bit so that it matches the other eye a little bit better. The more I'm putting on, the more I'm starting to see sort of like a darker patch right here. But it is getting darker, so That's very good. Cleaning my brush again, taking the shade Nancy, just to get a little bit of that shade back again. Clean brush, taking the shade Jaded, building up that color out here as well. And I feel like I'm just going to repeat myself time and time again, so I'll just stop saying that I've cleaned my brush, but I do clean my brush between every time I go from eye to eye. It's just I always like to work this way just to make sure that the eyes are looking more symmetrical, that I have like the same placement of eyeshadow on both eyes. Okay, so this is how my eyes are looking this far. As you can see, my Moonspell palette side is a little bit more green and the dupe side is a little bit more blue, I would say. Let's see if I turn down the lighting that you'll see it a little bit better. But it's like the deepness and everything still looks quite the same, honestly. So I already know that I want to use the shade Fiona here for my lid. So I will just go in with Fiona and the big flat brush here, and I will first try to apply it dry and then I will spray it with my MAC Fix by setting spray just to make it a little bit more foiled and to stick a little bit better to the eye. It does pick up quite easily, it seems. So I already have this much on my brush. And going in on this side, because this is this Moonspell side, I do have some fallout immediately. And what I'm trying to do is just to actually blend it out into the crease, to like on top of the mats. So as you can see, a bit fallout here. I'll just take a brush and fluff it away. Just before I wet the brush, I will be doing the same thing with my Colored Raine shade Forbidden on the other eye. And of course I cleaned my brush. This shade is just so stunning. I mean, all Colored Raine shades, like the shimmers, are just super foiled. It's just one of the most amazing metallic foiled formulas, I think. As you can see, it's super pigmented and I dragged it a little bit too far up right there because I still have quite a bit of product on the brush. So I will just have to blend that slightly out afterwards with my blending brush, I think. So that is how both sides look without putting any setting spray on the product before going in. So now I will just be using the flat brush on each side of the brush and just spray it with setting spray, applying the shadow especially like on the middle of the lid just right here to make it really pigmented and foiled. I don't really feel like it's doing too much to this shade. Maybe it's getting a tiny bit more foiled. I'm just taking my clean brush just to blend the edges here slightly. Now I'll be using the other side of my brush and I will be taking the shade Forbidden. And then I'm spraying my brush. this is how it's looking. I will just be blending out the edges slightly with a clean blending brush, and then I'll go ahead with my lower lash line. And just in order to be trying out as many shades as possible, I'm now going into the shade Page here with a very small detail brush and I'm just going to be tapping it right into the corner here. And I won't be blending it very much into there, I'll just be slightly blending it into the other shades. Then I'm just going to go into the shade Sincerely from Colourpop here, using that same brush but clean, doing the exact same thing here. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm cleaning my brush again. Now I'm going to use the shade Bonnie here. It's the lighter green from the palette, the same brush that I just cleaned. And I'll be just adding that to the inner corner on my lower lash line. I do feel like I have to just say that I know my base makeup is looking absolutely horrible. I've been trying out the new Juvia's Place shade stick and it just doesn't work on my skin. I literally just exfoliated with 2 different exfoliators because it ended up looking so patchy when I applied it first today. And then I cleansed my face, put moisturizer on, I sprayed my face with some moisturizing spray, and it still ended up looking like this, so that's that. And now I'm just going to go in with the shade Courtney with that same brush. It's very loose in the pan. Just cleaned my brush again, so I'm just using it without any product on, just blending out a little bit. And I would be just using a flat brush just like this. And I'm going to go in with the shade Proof for my inner corner. So that is obviously this lightest shimmer shade in the palette. Doesn't really pick up that much. And I'm just adding that to my inner corner here. It's a super sparkly and beautiful shade. And now I'm just going to use the shade Sweet Tooth by Looxi here. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to do with the shadows. So I will just be applying some black liner to my upper lash line here. I will apply some white liner to my waterline on both sides, of course, and mascara, some lipstick, and I will be back to show you how it looks up close, and I will tell you all about my thoughts about these dupes that I have. Okay, so this is how both eyes turned out, and I have a lot of thoughts about this. Obviously, the real side, the Moonspell side, is a little bit brighter and more green. And when it comes to the lid shade, I feel like I will just zoom you in so it's a little bit easier to explain. If you look at the lid, then you can see that this one has a lot more depth to it and it's a little bit more foiled. So honestly, I do prefer this shimmer in comparison to this one. And in general, you can see that this side, the dupe side, is a little bit deeper than the real side. But I don't know which one I like the most. I think both sides are really pretty in their own way. When it comes to the colors here underneath, I feel like they're really similar. There's not really much difference there. And in general, if I were to go out like this, I don't think anyone would have noticed, honestly. It's quite similar, even though there are some slight differences, as you can see. But I do feel like both blend out quite nicely. It's a little bit easier with the Moonspell palette, just because they're not as pigmented, maybe. And then we have of course, the inner corner shades are maybe it's like the biggest difference, I think, just because obviously the inner corner shade that I have from the Moonspell palette, the shade Prue, has it's like a light purple or lavender base with more purple sparkles to it, whilst the Sweet Tooth shade that I used here, it has a white base or more iridescent base, so obviously they're going to be a little bit different. And I think that it's a tiny bit warmer, the reflect in the shade Sweet Tooth here, compared to the sparkle in the real palette. But I don't think anyone would have noticed that either, to be honest. So all in all, I'm really surprised about this. I had no idea that my dupes were like so spot on, at least for these shades. Obviously, I will link you the other video where I go through all of the different shades that I have duped in the palette, so you will be able to see all of the different ones compared to the the actual shades in the Moonspell palette here. So I will be swatching all of them, and I also have a couple of alternatives to some of them. I do have alternatives to almost all of the shades that I've used today, except from the light shimmer shade and the purple shade that I used. So do definitely check out that if you're just interested in one or two of the different shades in this palette before you go ahead and buy the whole palette. But me personally, I'm still like, even though I have dupes for basically all of these shades, I am still happy to have this because I do really like all of the different shades that are in this palette, and I really just wanted to try his formula. So obviously the formula is going to be different even though you have the similar shades. So you did also see that when I was applying the different shades, that they did perform a little bit different on the eyes compared to each other. So that is definitely something to take into consideration when you're deciding if you like, do you really want the palette or do you just want a couple of shades, or like, is it worth it to buy the whole palette just for the formula, for example. But all in all, this was like a super fun video to make. I was actually really happy with the result that I had. I didn't like expect it to be so similar. I will just show you here the actual dupe palette. Of course, I did take it a little bit out because I was using the single pens when I was showing you them. But yeah, these are basically all of the dupes for the palette. And here we have some of the alternatives, so do check out my other video if you're interested in that. But yeah, I really enjoyed filming this for you guys, and I hope you enjoy watching it as well. Please give this video a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!